When I say about crisis in plastic, it means that the crisis today and is going to be in future in a more vast way. The crisis is basically about the non-systematic or the informal way of process of plastics from its start till the end, not only segregating as per 1, 2, 3 code, but as per color, as per sound, as per the eyesight. Like they have the sense organs.
Now, since you mentioned informal sector, let me just clear this out to our audience that informal sector is nothing but our very own kabadiwalas. If we keep environment in mind, should those not be banned actually? Or do you think that by not banning them, we are creating another route of,
Plastic generation.
No, not plastic generation. We are creating another route for resource generation or some income generation for some partners. Hello, welcome to the second episode of our podcast, the Sustainability Conundrum. And today we have our guest, Mr. Uchhwash Barua, who is basically a plastic waste expert in this field and also an EPR, that is Extended Producer Responsibility expert, working in this field for around 5 years. So with further ado, let us move into our discussion. So Uchhwash, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
So how do you feel to be a part of this podcast?
Is actually very new to me because I have been seeing podcasts over screens and haven't been attending any. So this is my first podcast, so I think it's going to be interesting and kind of excited about it.
Really? Great. So let me start with the very basic thing, that's the plastic waste crisis. And it's all over the world, it's around us, we see it every single day. And by the word crisis, I mean, how do you define this thing? Is it a catastrophe or is it a future threat, or is the threat is already here? So how do you see it? And as an expert in this field, how do you think, how do your work address this issue? Can you just give us some highlights on that?
Yeah, so when I say about crisis in plastic, it means that the crisis today and is going to be in future in a more vast way. Right. So mostly this crisis is because of the lack of awareness from the persons who are actually generating those waste till the time when it's reaching. So the recycling process is very less than the amount of consumption. So what happens is that mostly we do not have the infrastructure to store that waste. We end up disposing it over landfills, which in return is creating methane, which is actually contributing to the carbon emissions. So the crisis is basically about the non-systematic or the informal way of process of plastics from its start till the end, which is basically harming the circular process or the process which we should be implementing right now to create a balance between the nature and also our consumption. So this is how I believe plastic crisis is actually a threat for the future, and a threat for the future means that it has started already. So I think we need to take some steps today itself.
And how do you think your work is addressing this issue? I mean, the kind of work you're doing.
Yeah, so the work which I'm doing is mostly about trying to streamline the informal sector, which constitutes more than 95% of the plastic industry market, right? They have the vast ability and thought process or practice which can actually segregate plastics, which can increase the recycling rates, right? So over the 5 years journey, I have seen those people working, not only segregating as per 1, 2, 3 codes, but as per color, as per sound, as per the eyesight. Like they have the sense organs.
Right? I think they are much more. They are this experience has given them such kind of indexing properties in their brain that even we cannot go by the numbers. Right?
Yes.
Is that you're trying to say?
Yes, that's what it. And I am trying to also want to uplift them so that they can actually solve those problems before we think that we have to study or do something else. That's one thing. Second thing is about that I've also worked on the low value plastics, or we say in a normal word single use plastics. Those low value plastics are being transformed into a lot of sustainable products, which can be household products, which can be industrial products, which can be construction products. So throughout my life, I've seen a new life for plastics. So I think that everybody needs to, take it up take it up as an action, start from their habits, and accept sustainability or accept sustainable solutions as much as they can. So this is what I've seen in my year's journey and how plastic is evolving.
That's great. Now, since you mentioned informal sector, let me just clear this out to our audience that informal sector is nothing but our very own kabadiwalas. So basically, they process the waste in an informal manner because they don't have any kind of formal registration or formal routes of recycling in terms of technology, in terms of the processing, in terms of handling them, including the safety precautions. So that's why we call them the informal sector. And as Uchhwash was mentioning, that streamlining them can be really helpful for us. So yes, certainly. And with the cue of you mentioned the single-use plastics. Now there are a lot of buzz around the single-use plastics. They should be banned, and they are polluting the marine environment and all this stuff. But and you were also saying these kind of plastics can be easily upcycled or remorphed into some sort of different products. Those could be household and other stuff. But if we keep environment in mind, should those not be banned actually? Or do you think that by not banning them, we are creating another route of
Plastic generation.
no, not plastic generation. We are creating another route for resource generation or some income generation for some parties. So, I mean, what's your take on that? I mean, that's the conundrum we are looking forward to. Like in certain places, we are trying to rid of this trying to ban this single-use plastics, and then on the other hand it is giving roti roji, it's giving income for certain people. So that's the kind of conundrum we are dealing with here. So what's your take on that?
So when I talk about single-use plastic, in India, we follow trends, right? So if there is a ban on single-use plastic, we say the single-use plastic should be banned. The concept single-use plastic is that I will use it once and I will not use it again. In India, we usually don't do that. We use that plastic. Sometimes I've seen my dad putting that plastic over the keyhole of the bike so that the rainwater doesn't go in. So we're reusing that. But if I come straight to the ban part of it, why we are banning it? So the ban part is, I think, has to be more specific on what particular kind of plastic we need to ban, right? Because a lot of plastic, which you call the polythene, is recyclable. It's just that it is lightweighted, so some aggregators don't take it because of the economical value. But it can be recycled. What cannot be recycled are those plastics which are made of less microns. Because as soon as I want to put it into a shredder machine, it will just vanish because it's very light, it's very thin. So right now, instead of banning, we need to put an alternative. We need to bring in more microns. I mean, a better micron. Like we might not be going for 10 microns or 20 microns. We need
So you were talking about modifying the
standards of the plastics
rather than banning the product itself.
Exactly, because it also supports a lot of livelihoods, right? I mean, a lot of livelihood is supported. I mean, our country is so vast. There's a lot of population. We need to give, income.
And specifically the bottom of pyramid.
Most of people pyramid. I mean, if you're taking away something from them, give them something back. Ban is important for the environment in mind. It's very much important, but there cannot be any ban which harms the income generating people who are already below a standard level, right? So we have to keep an alternative in that way. I support the ban, but only on those plastics which are not maintaining the microns.
So you are saying that it's not about the product, it's about the quality of the raw material.
Exactly. And more streamlining into specific only those products.
Those products.
It should be in clarity. There should be a clarity of which products actually I'm thinking of single-use plastic. For very example, I'm saying the flags, Indian flags or Independence Days. Those are single-use. I use it for once and I'll throw it. But it cannot be recycled because it is made of very less microns.
That's right.
But the same target is made on the polythene which we take from the shopkeepers. Those are ultimately recyclable. But it's just that economical value, some people take it, some people don't take it. And moreover, we don't segregate our waste, right? So more wet waste on that plastic is more rejected by the applicants or any aggregators. So the list goes on, it's a vicious circle. So it keeps happening that way.
So in my opinion, it's more about, if you consider it's a brinjal fritter, it's not about the outer layer. It's about the brinjal, the quality of the brinjal inside, isn't it?
Exactly.
Since we were talking about the alternatives to the single-use plastics, So one alternative is just in front of me, porcelain cups we have been using for ages. But then again, there is a lot of energy. I mean, it's an energy intensive process to manufacture a porcelain cup. And we have to use it, I think, around 200 times before we can throw it away. Otherwise, it's not sustainable.
Right.
But then there are companies those are coming up with different products which are really innovative. For example, I have seen some company coming up with edible cutleries, and then somebody coming up with in Indonesia, one startup came up with glasses and others made out of seaweeds. So you can even eat it. And then some Italian guy came up with a straw made out of pasta.
Right.
Right. And somebody also came up with agricultural waste. They mixed it with resin and other stuff. And those were, sort of greenwashed. But yeah, that was a nice product to have. But the strange part is that it's very, very strange that these products, I have never seen them become mainstream. So, where do you think the problem lies? That is it like our too much independence on plastic, or like we are so much into that plastic is there, we know it for some time, so we have a faith in plastic. But on the other hand, we are not being able to put our faith or trust into these new products, or is it something else? What's your take on it? What do you think about it?
Yeah. So there are a lot of alternative materials which is coming out as true. The first and a simple line which just comes in my mind when you have asked me this question, that why people don't accept it or why it is not there in front of people, is lack of awareness. People aren't aware that okay, this kind of material is there, right? Or this kind of alternative material is available. That is first. Second is a cost factor, right? So basically, if my life has been using single use, use and throw pens, I will not shift my mindset, my Indian mindset, into a fountain pen, which is more expensive than a use and throw pen, and think in this way that it is more sustainable and it is more plastic or not nature friendly, and I can use it for that time. So this cost benefit factor comes a lot in front for the Indians. Key, what is the cost? Oh, it's less cost, I'll take it first. We can see later what happens to that. So that kind of mentality comes in. Second, I feel that, which I really have a personal opinion, is that a lot of industries prevent other industries to come in, right? So if for example, if you have seen that from plastic when you are making petroleum, which is working, but why it is not sufficient or why it is not being supported so much? Maybe there are few entities who don't want that to come in the market. They want to come in the mainstream market, right? Because when they come in, the crowd is turning sustainable mindset. The crowd's mindset is turning sustainable. They will choose that. Before that, why can't these entities take that mess up and take it? But they don't. They want to keep that thing coming up and keep the innovators a bit behind so that they can build their market first. This is my opinion totally, right? So this is how I feel that there are a lot of things which are actually hindering. And for anything, if you want to accept, if you kind of want to make people accept something, you have to give them something, right? So there should be some incentives or subsidiary advantages which those companies should get to reach out to those people, because they don't expense to make it, right? And I want to reach out to people. I need some help, and it help comes from mostly from the government. Now, if the government is supporting some particular entities, it becomes quite difficult for other entities to come in. This is like the upper line of it. But yes, a government cannot change your life, or the government cannot change my life, right? If I choose, I can choose. But if it is on me, I would think that is the first 2 points, which I said: lack of awareness and cost benefit process mindset. So if you can change that, I think acceptance will be much faster.
Then if you when you're talking about the cost factor, so this there comes two parts of it, right? One part is for the innovators and the other part is the customer side. So I have come across these bamboo straws which costs like 8 rupees, and compared to steel straws it's like 28 rupees less. So why this hasn't come into the market? মানে বাঁশের বলে কি বাঁশ দিয়ে দেবে নাকি, মানে এরকম তো ব্যাপারটা নয়, মানে মানে কি মানে what is the thing, মানে even if it's less, and the product is not that mainstream, we are like, no, we will not take that. So is it somewhere, do you think that, the typical mindset of, like, no, that's new, right now I won't invest in that, even if it's 8 rupees. So do you think that sort of tonality in Indian culture, is hindering this market? Because if you go to the European counterparts, uh, the acceptance of this kind of products is comparatively higher. I'm talking about from practical experience.
Okay.
So is it so, or there's any other factor that's hindering, like awareness you said, or the marketing, or something else? What do you think?
Okay, so we have to understand this first, that the market is comprised of two sections everywhere. One is informal and one is the formal. If you talk about India, the informal sectors who are purchasing straws are also more than the one who are formals, right? I mean, I can go to Maidan and I can just have a jaljeera. There are straws. So I'm telling you a story. What happened was that we did some collection drive and we were returning. It was quite humid and we wanted to have some jaljeera. Now, for me, I am like, if the plastic straw is there, I have no option, but I'll make sure I dump it in a dustbin rather than throwing it away. That is my first instance. If I don't have a dustbin, I'll keep it with myself till I find a dustbin. One person over there just wanted to have a talk with that person. I said that, why don't you use bamboo straws? Why don't you use change? Why don't you change it like this? He said a simple thing. जब मेरा जो खर्चा है प्लास्टिक स्ट्रॉ खरीदने का, अगर बैम्बू स्ट्रॉ उसमें मिल जाता है, मैं क्यों ना यूज करूं? That creates a lot of questions. Like, is it that expensive that the 90% of the market, which is controlled by the informal sector, is having a problem in purchasing and reselling their product? Right? Now, if the government says that if you're using bamboo, I can subsidize or I can take few of your orders from my end every month. From your stall, I will always take 100 glasses of jaljeera to my offices.
Certainly.
You have to take the bamboo products. He will do it. But if the government is not supporting, it is very difficult. So that's where
So there is a governance part of it.
Exactly.
Which is, I think from the discussion we're having, I think governance is a key factor.
It has always been.
It has always been, but specifically in this case, when we want to showcase our innovations, I think governance, I think the government needs to take a more of a leadership role.
Exactly.
I think in the past few years there has been some schemes, but I think it has to become, those schemes needs to be a bit more mainstream, isn't it?
Mainstream, and it has to be a bit open, because since our economy is open economy, we would expect the government to open up and include people who are actually from those field. Like, if you have people who are coordinating things, that's great. But with whom you are coordinating, that person must be an expert. He must know what he's doing or what he's asked to do. If I'm appointing someone who may be from the department, but he does not have that expertise, because you take thousands of exams to recruit one government officer.
Exactly.
So you need to have some kind of test or some kind of viability to make sure the person you are hiring or putting in contract with you has that experience, not a company's experience, that person experience, because he's going to run that company or he's going to create that process of change. So I would say that government needs to put in more such experts within their reach to take suggestions, to have a meeting or understand what exactly the future is.
I think government should have a separate ministry for waste management, sustainability, and circular economy. I think
that exact ministry is not there.
I think they should have. Because the kind of way we are progressing, and now we are no longer a developing country. So we are somewhere in between.
In between, yes.
Yeah. So, and with that sort of global status is having, and I think the government should think about this.
Yes, and they should very fast.
They should
very fast, actually.
So this is our our request or our suggestion to the government that please form a ministry that should contain scientists and experts and industrial people who can actually make proper and informed decision making in cases of waste management, circularity, sustainability, and I think, and we also think, even other guests who have come, and they have already they are speaking the same language, the same lingo time and again, that government should have this kind of specific ministry, and India should lead by the example, we believe.
Absolutely. We're leading, but we're not conscious about our leadership. Exactly. Like,
That's a nice one. That's a nice
we have all the Jogaru ideas in mind, but, we just don't realize that we're actually leading in
we
them.
are leading. Exactly.
So that's
So,
how it
I mean, like, you don't identify the genius next door. That has been the problem since the times of Ramanujan.
Exactly, exactly.
So, yeah. Now, with this, your, like, the thing we are discussing regarding the government and the policy making, and the policy tool that's very much, these days active, or the buzzword is EPR, that
Yeah.
extended producer responsibility. So, how do you see? Just first give me some brief about EPR first, and then tell me how it can be helpful in solving the plastic crisis, and uh, as much as I know about EPR, is it has to be handled by the producer. So how the power or the overall aspects are getting shifted, or the burden is getting shifted towards the producers instead of the consumers. So can you give some idea about
So,
that?
basically, when it comes to my thought process about EPR and to explain people what is it, so I give a very simple example about CSR. Okay. So in CSR, what happens? The concept is that when you're making profits, you have to give 2% of your profit for the social development. Now, when it comes to the plastic waste management, in plastic waste management, the plastic recycling is quite expensive, not in the sense of the quality, but not in the sense of the quantity, but it's in the quality how the recyclers receive the plastics, right? So since it's expensive, most of the times what happens is that the low value plastics or the single use plastics gets ignored because of the economical value. That's when the rise, there is very much deficit in the recycling rates due to these reasons. Now the government has said that to cover this mess up, the producers who are being putting so many materials into the packaging, making it so attractive, writing us a lot of things, now they have to put in some money to get their part of plastics which they have used to send their products to the customers. Now it is their responsibility to take it back from the nature. That is EPR. In CSR, you're giving back to the society by donating some of your profits. In EPR, you're taking back the plastics, indirectly benefiting the society by cleaning the environment.
Right.
And they are kind of, by taking the plastics back, they are kind of, you might say, they're funding the process of recycling even the low value plastics. So in that way scenario, through EPR, it is the most, I wouldn't say the smoother way, but right now the only way to create a policy and also bringing all the stakeholders together to fight towards this crisis. That's my take on EPR.
Okay. And now EPR is, like we have EPR in plastic waste, we also have EPR in electronic waste. And I think it started with electronic waste and later it was shifted to plastic
Plastics.
waste. And if you look at the supply chain of these two wastes, it's quite similar, but e-waste is a bit more complex. And then for textile waste or ELV, EPR is coming soon. What I have heard.
Yes, yes, it is.
So, I mean, how robust is this tool to take on all these kind of wastes? Because from your analysis or whatever you just said, what I could understand is it is something CSR inverse. Sort of.
reverse logistics. Yeah.
Conceptually, it's CSR inverse.
Yeah.
If I put it mathematically. So yeah, so all the technical guys, here is your technical shit. That's CSR inverse. So yeah, coming back to the EPR. So how robust is this process to take on different sorts of supply chains? Because when you talk about e-waste and plastic, you have only one product, plastic. In e-waste, you have multiple metals. You have plastics, you have ceramics, you have glass. So how this is being tackled by EPR? I mean, if we compare, just say comparing plastic and e-waste, so how robust is this thing? Or is it there is some other framework that varies with the central idea of EPR? Can you just clarify this conundrum?
Sure. So basically, when I talk about EPR in plastics and EPR in e-waste, so yes, you're correct. I mean, in EPR, if I'm taking a particular component, there are a lot of other metals involved in it. It needs to have properly segregated and have to have the proper thing. But plastic does not leave stay behind. When plastic comes in, it's not only about one color plastic or the same quality plastic. There are thousands of plastic in that, and even in those plastics, there are a lot of kind of materials involved, which makes that plastic a bit better and lengthier. You can keep it lengthier. So the process which should be applied in these processes are that the infrastructure needs to be developed. The framework is in its place. The problem with the framework is that it keeps on changing, right? So it's a learning process. I know it will be taking some time, but it's a learning process. But if it has to be robust, the infrastructure needs to change a lot. There has to be more infrastructure on recycling facilities. There has to be more infrastructure on collection processes. If I talk about both plastic and e-waste, when those infrastructure are put in place and recognized, because in EPR there is something known as tracking and monitoring. The EPR framework, whichever it may come to a position, maybe after 2-3 more changes, it can be more expandable, more accessible, and it can create a proper tracking of generation till it's been recycled. So this is how I feel about e-waste and plastic waste. Both are different material, I understand that totally, but both has its own complications. And I cannot say anything less or more about any one of them, right? Both should be given importance equally. But yes, the way e-waste is received and the way plastic waste is received is totally different. And that's where plastic waste, I feel, is pushed a bit back, because that's where most of the plastic waste is not collected at all. But if you talk about e-waste, I think nobody leaves out e-waste most of the times. I mean, whatever you get, something you can make out of it. But plastic waste, I mean, you can make something out of it, but again, if it is dirty, if it has all curry, chawal on it, I mean,
Which is the most of the cases.
yeah. So human will not pick it up, right? Because I don't know if talking about anyone else. Human shouldn't pick that up. It's unhealthy. It's unhygienic, and it stays over there forever. Maybe somebody government office truck will come and just take it up and just throw it on a landfill, and that's the end. But did it got recovered? No. So the way of being it robust is that we have to make sure that we have a lot of accessible points, infrastructure development, which will actually help to build this particular part where plastic is being rejected and proper plastic is being coming and is being recycled.
I get your point, and I have a take on the. I mean, I have a point here. I think for tools like EPR to, capture the market or become the most successful EPR policy tool, I think we also need to make consumers a bit more aware. And specifically in the Indian scenario, I think the Kamwali buys, we should be giving training to them.
Yes, they are the one actually who are doing all this. I mean, they're not doing all this. I mean, they're responsible to.
They are the most responsible for segregating the waste at the house.
Yes, they are. I mean, those are the people. Exactly. I agree to the point. Maybe I missed, but thanks for reminding me this. These are the awareness, and there are some sections which will be targeted first. The influence can go high up the table, so that's okay. So yeah.
So to the Kamwali buys, you have to go to school once again. You cannot say no to these, right? So as we were talking about EPR, so there are always naysayers, and I have met a lot of people from industry specifically. So they are saying that EPR has failed. EPR has made things more complicated, and EPR portal is not working and all this stuff. So how do you see it? I mean, this naysaying about EPR.
See, sir. I mean, whenever there is any kind of what do you call change happening, development happening. Change, I would say, that will be a bit much wider than development. I mean, the change when it happens, there will be naysayers always, right? There will be people who will talk about it. but they will not be those people who will actually put their hands into it and clear it out, right?
Right.
So we have to really understand this fact that we have not been putting any effort on waste management for so many years, and suddenly in maybe how many years?
9
Maximum a
years.
decade or 10 years?
9 years.
9 to 10 years, we want everything to change within that 9 years. It's not possible, right? The government are also made of, comprises of people. So the problem of the portal is that everything starts changing. Every kind of regulation changes, every kind of things changes. So the portal remains off. Second point is that they are naysayers. Why? Because they're not educated on EPR. Okay. Third, there is a process where if you are a manufacturer or if you're a brand owner and you purchases your plastics from a non-GST person, you have to bear his part of the plastic generation also.
Okay.
So that creates a burden on this particular thing. But again, we have not been putting any effort on formalizing this sector so that every of the people who are in the market are actually registered, or they have a proper name or anything as such. We have not done that. We have kept it as an industry which keeps working, and right now the changes are very fast for a very large people and organization.
Thank you for holding on. The episode is dragging too long, so we will continue our discussion in the next episode. Keep the sustainability alive in you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.